Hello everyone, welcome to Davos for your family. My name is Rajeshwar. Today we are going to see how we can deploy AWS resources using Terraform. Okay? We need to have the project structure and we need to have few files. That extension should be .tf. Okay? Our ultimate goal today is to deploy a VPC. So what is the VPC? This is the virtual private cloud. This is the networking component that will be deployed into your AWS account. So the flow is we are going to use the modules for the VPC as well as the subnet modules and EC2 resources and security group and allow only my public IP to connect the instance which is going to deployed in my AWS account. Okay. So if I go to the flow, this is the flow. You see, so here we are going to from the internet the traffic will come to the VPC and from there we are having internet gateway that will allow the traffic to VPC and this is users that will come to internet from the internet gateway that will get into the VPC. From the VPC we will having a route table and in the route table we will be allowing the public subnet, or I can say associating the route table with one of the public subnet, and there will be a EC2 instance deployed in the one of the public subnet, and this EC2 instance have the ENA, that is the Elastic Network Interface card, that will be associated with the security group. In the security group we will be having inbound and outbound rules. Inbound means it's a ingress rules that will be allowed for incoming traffic. Outbound means it's egress traffic. So only from my public IP I can able to connect or access this EC2 instance from my laptop using the PIM key which we saw in our previous video. Okay, so this is the plan, and yeah, so go through this one. In the you see users will connect to the VPC. From that it will be routing the traffic to internet gateway that will be associated with the VPC. From there it will go to the route table, a router, and the router we will have the route association with the public subnet, and from the public subnet it will go to the EC2 of the ANI with the security group ingress rules which is allowed in the inbound rule. This is the flow. Okay, now I will go to the code. If you see, this is the main.tf. So we are going to deploy all these resources. What are the resources we are going to deploy? That will be the VPC, that is a networking component, and 2 subnet, 1 EC2 instance, and security group with ingress IP that is allowed my public IP. So these are the resources we are going to create using this Terraform. So what I did was, this is the provider.df. What is the provider? Provider here we are using, there are a lot many providers. We can say provider or the cloud provider we are going to deploy our resources. Here I am mentioning the AWS is our provider and my region where I want to have this provider. This is just a metadata. I'm just given here as the AP South 1, that is the Singapore region. If you see, this is the Terraform record version 1.30. This is okay because I'm using 1.90, so this is greater than or equals to 1.30. Okay, and record provider I'm saying this is the version. Now if I go to my main.tf, the code start here. We are using a data HTTP my IP. This is just a syntax to get my IP. Okay, so using this one from AWS we can able to slice my public IP to allow my public IP in the security group. Here we are using a module, VPC module. Okay, the version is 5.10. So here I'll be simply naming my VPC as a DevOps for you VPC, and I'm getting using my CIDR ranges 10.0.0./16, and the AZs, we are having two AZs, that mean availability zone. We are going to create two subnet, public subnet in AP South 1A, that is in Singapore region. We'll having AP South 1A and AP South 1B. Okay, and the public subnet, I have just gone with 10.01.0/24 and 2.0/24. NAT gateway is false. What does it mean? If we are having any private instance that needs to be communicate with the internet, we need to have this NAT gateway. So we are not going to have any private subnet. So I just mentioned this as a false here. And enable DNS hostname. This is in the VPC level. And for the tags, I have given just DevOps for you VPC. This code all refer to VPC. So what it will do? It will create a VPC named DevOps for you VPC with the CIDR range 10.0.0.0/16, and it will create two subnets into availability zone with that name of the VPC is DevOps for you VPC. Okay, so this is the expected outcome from this module. And I'm moving with a security group. Why we need a security group? Security group, it's kind of a firewall, so it will only allow the traffic which is allowed in the ingress. If you see from port 22, that means SSH, only the SSH port is allowed, and the protocol is TCP. CADR block, so here we are using a chop function to get this data HTTP my resource response body/22. That means it will allow my public IP into the rule of the ingress rule, and the egress will be outbound. This is 0.0. This will allow all the outbound connections, and this will named as SSH access in the tag. And the next part is to deploy the EC2 instance. That is our goal, is to deploy the EC2 instance in our AWS, right? So I'm using this module to deploy the AWS instance, and the name of the EC2 instance is DevOps for you EC2 instance, and the EC2 instance type I'm choosing is T3.micro. There will be lot many instance type. I will walk you through once I access the AWS console. And here the key name is DevOps for you. This is the key which we created in our previous video. And here this is the subnet ID, where we are getting the subnet ID, that we will having a module in the VPC. I'm using one of the public subnet, that is the first subnet. I am just grabbing that subnet ID from this input. Okay, and VPC security group ID, here also we are referring the security group ID. This is resource dot this one AWS security group dot ID to allow the EC2 instance. Okay, and associate public IP true, that means we are going to use a public IP to access our instance. Okay, and this is the code, and we'll see that in action. I have just grabbed few SH script that will help us to deploy these resources. That will be in Terraform. There will be a Terraform plan, that is to just run a dry run of the plan. What are the resources going to deploy, right? First command will be terraform init. If you run the plan in the background, it will run the terraform init to download all the plugins, and it will create, there is a chain of process involved in the terraform commands that we will see in our next video. So I just walk you through the code now, so I think you have some idea what we are going to deploy and what are the resources we are going to deploy. In our next video, I will walk you through the Terraform basic commands that will help us to deploy our resources in our AWS cloud in Singapore region. Thank you. Thanks for watching.